Music, dance, theater. It's time to take a seat on the aisle with Tom Alvarez. Hear from performers, producers, presenters, and creators who enrich our lives in the performing arts. Who's on stage? Here is Tom Alvarez to introduce you.
Hello, and welcome to On the Aisle with yours truly, Tom Alvarez. Today's guest is educator, filmmaker, and artist Gordon Professor Strain. Join me now as I go on the aisle for a conversation with Gordon. Welcome, Gordon Professor Strain. Where did the professor come from?
So I am a professor at Franklin College,
Yes.
and I don't want to say I thought it was a joke when I got that job, but it seems so far-fetched from anything that I would ever actually do or be capable of that I thought, oh, I'm going to own this and really lean into it. And for whatever reason, Facebook approved the name. I don't think they would approve it now, but
The quotes and everything.
yeah, the quotes and everything. It just seemed like a joke that I could forever laugh at.
Why did you feel that was so out there?
I think my whole life, I guess I felt, I don't even want to say my whole life. When I got to college is when I really started feeling more creative. I got out of the shadow of my older brother, who's an excellent painter and artist, and I found my own form of creativity. And when I was offered the job to teach it, it just seemed like such a foreign thing because that seemed so academic and required such planning and rigor and all kinds of things that I didn't do with just my loosey-goosey, free-form way of life. I thought, I'm not qualified to make a plan to teach kids to do, what I'm doing. You, Tom, know my dad, who's was retired now, but was a phenomenal lawyer and also taught at the law school. It just seemed that world was rigid and smart and just not what I was. Yeah, it just felt they're taking a chance on me. I'm just going to be a little self-deprecating and have fun with it.
You talk about your dad. I was going to give him a shout out, of course, for our listeners. Your parents, Jim and Cheryl Strain, wonderful people. We've known each other for many years. In fact, I met you when you were in high school, and myself and my partner at the time, Wayne Cruiser, he was your father's partner at Barnes and Thornburg.
Yeah.
And we invited to I think you had an annual Christmas party open house, and that's where I met your family, of course, you and Liam, and you have a sister.
Younger sister Elizabeth.
And Elizabeth, where does she live?
She lives here in town. She's
Okay.
in the Broader area.
And Liam is in Chicago,
No,
right?
he's actually, they're in Atlanta now.
Oh, okay. I ran into him last year on the sidewalk, and you had an opening, which we'll get into later, of a film.
Okay,
and
yeah.
we're going to get into that later. But so anyway, Indy's a small town and 2 degrees of separation,
Yeah.
if not one.
Yeah, and even Wayne's son, Kenny, or I'm sure he goes by Kenneth now, but we were classmates in middle school, elementary school and middle school, Kenny and I were, so.
Kenny is now with an Innocence Project in
Oh,
Oregon.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
He represents folks who are in death row, for God's sake.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he swore he was never going to become a lawyer, and yet he followed his father's
Yeah.
footsteps. Anyway, old times. But yes, that's where I met you, and I remember what I was struck by was your openness. You were very approachable for a kid. A lot of teenagers, don't much care for interacting with adults. We're boring. But you were very, from the beginning, I could tell that you were just really curious, and I knew that you were going to do interesting things, and so I've followed your career ever since. And I was looking at your bio earlier. I guess we lost track once you moved out. Where did you go to high school here?
I went to Park Tudor. I went to
Okay.
Orchard through 8th grade and then Park Tudor for high school.
Oh, I didn't know that you were an Orchard grad. My business partner, Dustin,
Yeah,
taught
yeah.
there for a long time.
Exactly, yeah.
Did you study with him at all?
No, that
Okay.
before his time.
Okay, so you went on to Ithaca College, I saw.
Yeah.
Wow. And what did you major in there?
I got my BFA in theatrical production arts, so basically a BFA in technical theater.
Okay, so when did you develop your love for theater? I know
So-
your parents had to have taken you to a bunch of
Yeah,
stuff.
I've been going to theater and dance and art shows my entire life, and when I was at Orchard, actually, shout out to my good friend Tori Beavenauer. We've been friends since 4th grade, but the 8th grade musical every year, Tori and I decided we didn't want to be in it. We wanted to run the light boards and the spotlight. And rather than the teachers just saying, no, we don't want to teach you that, just go be in the chorus, they said yes and gave us that opportunity. And so Tori and I started doing technical theater at that point. We then both went to Park Tudor, continued doing technical theater, and we both started working at the time, the Indianapolis Civic Theater when it was at Newfields. We volunteered and eventually got paid to do technical theater there. And then it was late high school with the help of Jerry Grayson and Rob Heaney that I realized I could maybe make a career of this. And I started looking at colleges that would, one, get me far away from my family, but two, also had a great theater reputation. And at the time, Ithaca was ranked the 6th best theater school in the nation. So,
isn't Cornell also?
Yeah, Cornell and Ithaca are in the same
too?
town.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, but they're two completely different universities.
Oh, totally different universities. Yeah, one Ithaca's on the South Hill and Cornell is on the East Hill, and then the city of Ithaca is in the valley between them. So.
Now, I've never been there since upstate New York, so I'm sure the seasons there were just fabulous, huh?
It was
beautiful.
We got a lot of snow, very cold, but the summer and fall were
What's
out of
this
this
sort of
world.
idyllic-looking campus and all?
The campus itself, the Ithaca campus, while the school itself is old, the campus was built in the late 50s, but not in the cool mid-century way, in a more brutalist way. But because you're up on the hill and you're overlooking one of the Finger Lakes and the woods and everything,
wow.
so it was definitely, they say Ithaca is gorgeous because there are so many gorges there, but the puns play on words.
In your field of study, I bet you there were a lot of notable graduates there that went through that program?
Yeah, there were some. One of our guest professors when I was there was a gentleman named Paul Gallo, who had been an alum, and he was a very famous Broadway lighting designer. I think the reason the school was ranked so high is, although it was upstate, so many of the graduates went on to very successful New York careers, and that was for theater people the goal, right? Head to New York and you get steady gigs.
I always figured there was a relationship because it was in New York, and people probably went down there to see shows and all that stuff anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly. We would go, not quite every weekend, but we would go often, whether it was to Boston or New York to see something.
But you loved that as a young man.
Oh, I loved every second of my college life.
When you went to New York, coming from the Flatlands, the Midwest, I bet you it was just irresistible, huh?
It was...
Do you recall those times when you first saw your first Broadway show?
Oh, my first Broadway show. Wow. I remember seeing a lot of Broadway shows.
Probably went with your parents earlier than that, though,
No,
right?
I had never been to New York City until I went to Ithaca.
Okay.
Our family, we would go to Chicago often, but not to New York. So until I was at Ithaca, I had never been into Manhattan proper.
Okay. So again, do you remember what your impressions were early on?
I just remember... Okay, folks who have been to Chicago know Chicago is beautiful and it has a downtown, but so much of Chicago is spread out, low building suburbs, right?
Yeah.
3 or 4 stories. And I remember the first time in New York, it just seems like there's so much more and taller stuff. I was just like, wow,
I was
every
going to ask
building.
you, were you looking up at the buildings
Yeah.
and annoying the New Yorkers trying to walk
Right,
the street?
exactly. And of course, my first trip there was my best friend from college was from Long Island and often in the city. So he's trying to just walk, you pay attention later, get out of the way. And yeah, so that New York state of mind hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, I recall trying to order in a deli. It was taking my time, and I got yelled out. I was so humiliated. I thought, oh, God, I was trying to pass for a New Yorker. They could tell straight off that I was this yokel.
They know right away.
So your college years, how were they overall?
It was incredible. My time at Ithaca, I made great friends. I had really great professors. And I feel that specifically Erhard, he was my scenic design professor. He really, I mentioned my brother earlier, who's a great painter, and he's a graphic designer now. But Erhard really showed me, hey, you like technical theater, but you don't just have to build and do technical. You have the skills and the mind to be a designer, and let me help nourish that and get that design side out of you. And so that's when my world really flipped.
How did he see that? What were you doing? Were you sketching, or what were you doing? Building sets and stuff too?
It was in an intro to design class that all the tech theater kids took, and I didn't have the art skills because, again, that had been my brother, so I never bothered with it. But what I had was really great concepts for design and these big ideas that really worked with the texts to make an interesting look. That was when Erhard really started working with me about the art side of it and how to communicate that idea artistically so that people would be able to understand the design.
And at that time when you were at school, when you saw the show, did you look at it with a different perspective?
Very much so.
Okay.
And as being involved in the arts and a patron of the arts, it makes every viewing experience very different, and I don't want to say hard to watch, but it can sometimes be hard to enjoy because you're locked into why'd they do that?
And then there's also the matter of is that it's like multitasking. Is it possible to be drawn into the story but at the same time notice the lighting, the costumes, and everything else? I have to do that as a reviewer, right?
Sure,
and I had to train myself, though, to also keep track of it all, but that came from being a TV director, too, with having 30 monitors. But anyway, I wonder how you did that. Were you able to? Now you are, I bet.
Yeah, I think in college when I was still learning so much, and I had some classmates that I really looked up to, some upperclassmen that I really looked up to, and I remember seeing their shows or working on their shows and just being like, wow, they came up with this, and they had this idea, and trying to find how they, as an artist, were getting that imagery from the text, right? And so the more I focused on that and learned then how to hone in that skill in my own work, I just continue to get better at what I did.
Isn't that cool when you learned how to do that?
Yeah, it was very cool. And it's crazy. I don't want to be flippant about it, but now I teach it. I'm sure we'll talk about it, but I teach at Franklin College now and have been for many years. And it's so much easier now to read a script and be able to come up with an idea 19 years later than when I was first in college and
I
just
bet you
digging.
Also along the way developed an appreciation for writing.
Oh, absolutely.
Script writing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And how to read a script.
Yes.
And what to look for.
And I always, anytime I have a student that's interested in playwriting, or if I meet a playwright, my advice always is think about how it's going to be produced.
I go all over the place here, but now I want to pivot to talking about, okay, so are you a writer as well as all of the other things you do as a multidiscipline artist?
I used to write a lot of short stories. That was really...
But not plays?
Not plays, no.
Could you?
I don't think I could.
Okay.
I think, again, to me, a short story is like a concept, and a play is dialogue. Some people are great at dialogue, and some people are not, and I'm not.
You don't think you have an ear for it?
I think I can recognize good dialogue. I don't know that I could write it.
Yeah. Okay, so what happened after Ithaca?
After Ithaca, I was all set to move to New York, and Rob Heaney, who had been my teacher at Park Tudor, mentioned that Cincinnati Country Day School was looking for someone in his position. Exactly what he did at Park Tudor, a K through 12 school. They needed someone to run the theater and do that. And so he gave them my name, and I ended up moving to Cincinnati and teaching middle school and high school, but also running the theater for the whole school.
Wow. That sounds so similar to my business partner Dustin Klein's career.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you came out of private school, so you know the drill.
I knew the drill.
The bureaucracy at those places and all that kind of stuff. Right?
Yeah. And it was interesting because getting the plan, move to New York, live in some crappy apartment and freelance versus having a steady paycheck.
Did you have that dream of the quintessential kind of New York?
Oh, yeah, I had that dream.
The Coldwater Flat.
La Boheme, the whole bit, yeah.
I love that.
Yep.
Okay, but you made a practical decision, too.
I did.
Yeah. What compelled you to do that?
I think at the time I was engaged. I got engaged to my now ex-wife, Amy, and it just seemed to a 22-year-old like the responsible thing was to have steady work, and it was closer to home. And
That's your parents' grounding, I could tell.
yeah.
So how did that work out in Cincinnati?
It was great. I was there for 3 years. I really enjoyed it. I loved working with the students. Middle school students are my jam. I just love the energy that a 6th or 7th grader brings to the table.
How is it unique?
At that school, and many schools like that, 6th grade is the first year of middle school. So it's their first year where they don't have a classroom teacher. They bounce from class to class and they wander the halls, but they're not fully grown up yet. They're still like excited and nervous and willing to make a fool of themselves and do silly activities, to drama game, all those things that we've all done a million times. They're not afraid to do them. Whereas like an 8th grader who is too cool for school and ready for high school is not going to play zip, zap, zop or whatever. So I really got a lot of energy from working with those middle schoolers. And then the high schoolers, I enjoyed working with them too, because obviously we had power tools, we were building sets and teaching them and training them and watching them get that sense of accomplishment. Hey, we're doing anything goes, and we just built a boat on stage. And here we are, 15 to 18-year-olds building this, watching them get excited about that was incredible.
Also, because you were like in your 20s.
I was in my 20s.
You were still cool.
So as cool as I could have.
Were you one of those teachers that tried to go down to their level and talk like them, or were you like authentic at the same time, mindful of how to communicate?
So it's interesting. I have always... They did call me Mr. Strain, which I did not enjoy, because I feel if I'm going to be on my hands and knees cutting and drilling this wood and putting something together, and you're right here next to me, I feel like that's less of a formal thing. Now, the classroom is the classroom, but there's so much learning outside of the classroom. And so not that we were equals, but that we were co-workers, and if they had been calling me Gordon, I would have felt just as respected, because that's just how that works. And I will say at the college, when I could make that decision, no one calls me Professor Strain. They just call me Gordon.
As I continue to age, if you will, I can't get younger people to call me anything but Mr. Alvarez.
Yeah.
And it's the way they were brought up. And I appreciate that. But please call me Tom. And they just can't do it.
Yeah.
So let's talk more about did you take a page from your years in being an orchard and park tutor, to use at the school that we mentioned it previously? Did you take that, your own experience and how to be an effective teacher?
Yeah, and fortunately, my partner at the time, Amy, is a trained teacher, trained elementary school teacher. What I did the most probably was draw from her. And
so that's right, you wouldn't
classroom
have
management.
You didn't have education classes.
No, I didn't have anything like that.
Okay.
So in terms of classroom management and ways to engage the students who aren't engaged, and that kind of stuff, she really taught me a lot. And I would like to say, just before we get any farther, my now wife, Diane, is a much better professor than I am, and I still continue to draw advice and things from her about how to be a more effective teacher.
Did you take any psychology courses in your undergrad?
No, man. I will say, if I have one regret about my undergrad, so I have a BFA, so it was a conservatory program. Thanks to Park Tutor, I was able to test out of math, science, history, language, English. I tested out of almost everything. So I didn't have to take any general education requirements when I got to Ithaca. And I decided, when I was doing the theater stuff, I decided I would add art history to that, which was great. And I love art history, and it is crucial to my career in terms of researching how architecture, everything about design. But I never took anything like psychology or like any philosophy, all those things that are great college courses that just give you a more well-rounded.
Did you do mathematics?
No.
Oh, wow.
Test it out.
That would have been helpful in terms of your like building and design stuff, huh?
I was in high school. I took geometry, algebra. I took everything that I had to, and I excelled in them, and I finished them by my sophomore year and never took another math class.
So you already had that right brain, left brain thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't really have to. Okay. What happened after Cincinnati?
The other thing I'll add about Cincinnati, I was at a Reds game with one of the owners. I was in the owner's box, and he introduced me to this woman who ran a public art thing, and she said to me, "Do you like public art?" And I was like thinking design is public art in a way, and I said, "Yeah." She said, "Do you work with kids?" And I said, "Yeah." And next thing I know, I'm hired to work for Artworks Cincinnati, they hired kids in the summer to be artist apprentice. So I would come up with a large sculpture, and then these kids, instead of having a McDonald's or whatever summer job, would work with me, the artist, to create this sculpture that was then displayed in downtown Cincinnati. So I did that for 3 summers, working with these high school kids from all over the Cincinnati area to create public art. Wow. And I really, at that point, discovered, as much as I love design and theater, I think that my passion is the even less lucrative public art. I think I love sculpture gardens, I love beautiful murals, all that kind of stuff, and I love that it's free to the public for everyone to enjoy. And so I wanted to, after doing that, find a way to incorporate more of that into my life as an outlet. Different than theater. Similar concepts, but different application.
We have something in common. As you know, I've reinvented myself quite a few times. And I'm so grateful that I had professors in college who taught me the same thing that you obviously were taught. Learn a lot of stuff, become well-rounded.
Yeah.
Listen to all kinds of music. Go to see other performances other than theater. Go see opera. Go hear jazz. Go hear performers. And I'm so grateful for that because it left my mind open to try new things myself. You know, and not be limited.
Yeah.
Who says you can't be you don't have to let anybody define you. Has that been your experience?
Yes, absolutely.
You have to do this or you have to do that. You can't. You're dabbling. You don't want to dabble. I never looked at it that way.
I think the thing that I tell my students, and subconsciously I think what I live by, is that you want to be the most interesting person at the party, right? You want to be able to talk to anybody about anything. Not that you have to be an expert, but if you only have your 1 or 2 things that you like, you're going to run out of conversation real quick, and you're just not going to get anywhere.
That's great insight. Yeah, you're right. You're exactly right about that.
And so like I said, with my students, Franklin is a liberal arts college. There's no BFA or anything. While all my kids want to just take theater classes, I'm really pushing that they take these other things so that they do learn, because as plays are about the world, so you do want those history courses and those psychology and how those relationships work and philosophy, and then you bring all that back to the theater table, and you end up with a better, more filling production.
It's more rich.
Yeah, richer, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, after Cincinnati.
After Cincinnati, I really loved it. What I didn't love...
What a cool town, too, by the way. What a great town.
Yeah. I was just there this weekend.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. For its arts, for its history, its culture.
Baseball.
Yeah.
That's my baseball team. I love the Reds.
Yeah.
What I didn't like about Cincinnati, it was a private school, and parents had my home phone number. So if they were frustrated that I gave so-and-so detention, they could call me and complain. And I just thought, I love the kids, but it's not healthy for me. So
probably a lot of wealthy, entitled folks.
Yes.
Huh? And their son Johnny is the best.
That's right.
Yeah.
He would never be bad.
The politics of those private schools, I've seen it from afar.
Yeah.
It's like brutal.
Yeah. You can have parents walk into your classroom and say, "I'm paying your paycheck." And
my
okay,
God.
that's not really the case, but okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so at that point, there were 2 things. One, I decided I wanted to work with older people that were already adults so that I didn't have to deal with their parents. And 2, I had conversations with Janet Allen, who was the artistic director at IRT, and I really wanted to design at IRT. And she said, "You need more experience or you need your MFA." So at that point, I decided I'll go back and get my MFA. So then I'll have those letters and I'll be able to have more opportunities in front of me. So I left Cincinnati to go to Indiana University and get my MFA in scenic design.
At IU, wow. I didn't realize that you did that.
Yeah. I looked at a lot of different schools. I was almost dead set on Carnegie Mellon, and IU had just built a brand new theater, and they came in with a great offer. My buddy who had been at Carnegie Mellon said, hey, I worked on that install at IU, and it's a nice facility. You should go check it out.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that Purdue used to rule the roost as one of the top theater schools in the country.
Yeah, Purdue.
And then somehow along the way, IU overtook them.
Yeah.
But they built this program.
So IU had, I don't know who's retired now or not, but they had some really great faculty that were doing big things. And yeah, so they were building that program and really making
And now
it.
I know their musical theater department is through the roof.
Yeah.
I finally made it down there, and I was blown away. I saw something, The Comet, is a musical.
Okay.
That had been on Broadway, and I just couldn't believe the design. You walked into this room, and they had this parachute coming down from.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And they created this circus tent thing. It was just like mind-boggling, these students. And they were all, by the way, headed to Broadway.
Yeah.
After, most of them went to New York after school.
Yeah.
But anyway, so how was IU? Great instructors, teachers, I bet?
It was okay. I had one classmate that I really bonded with because we were both a few years older and had worked and gone back to school, whereas a lot of the other students were going straight through. And it's a very different mentality when you have owned a home, lived on your own, done this stuff, and you're not just continuing your college career. So he and I approached things differently. And my goal truly was just to get those letters, the MFA, so that I could get that other work.
You mentioned Janet. Was she a mentor of yours early on?
She was
friends with your parents. I know that.
Yeah, she was friends with my parents, and she was someone that I knew and respected.
And you'd seen a lot of her work at IRT.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I had no issues. I felt comfortable enough saying to her, 25-year-old me, what do I have to do to work here? Yeah. And she just told me, because that's how she is.
See, that's what I mentioned when I first met you. I saw that quality in you, that you were really curious.
Yeah.
You weren't afraid to talk to anybody.
No,
you were very open.
For better or worse, that's who I am.
Yeah, that served you quite well, my friend.
Thank you.
So what happened then? What did you guys do?
So IU was great. Ithaca was phenomenal, and that's where I grew. IU was a place where I worked, and I grew more, but it was a different kind of mentorship. I felt like I was already at a level, just wanted to get through.
You could probably teach the faculty a few things, couldn't you?
I will keep my mouth closed on that. But the most interesting thing that came out of IU is we had a graduate student poker night, one night a week. It was just a $5 poker game, 9 or 10 of us sitting around, and it was people from the acting, from directing, from the history, all these theater people sitting around one table playing poker. And we let one undergraduate play with us. I don't know why. It's not like he was extra cool or anything, but that guy was Zach Spicer, who is now my business partner at Pegasus Pictures.
Oh, my goodness.
So we met playing $5 poker, stayed in touch, not really, and then when we launched Pegasus, obviously got back together.
I looked at the time here, and we haven't even gotten your Franklin years. So was it right after that you went to Franklin?
Right after that, I went to Franklin.
Okay, let's head right there.
Yeah.
Segue you into that. Tell me about Franklin College.
Again, that was one of those things. As I was wrapping up at IU, a professor that I didn't even have at IU, but in the theater department said, hey, there's this job just up the road. I don't know. I think you'd probably be a decent fit. You should apply. Again, I was set to go, still had La Boheme in my head. I was going to move to New York and do the freelance thing and come back here, freelance at IRT. And I interviewed at Franklin, and just Franklin has a way. I love it.
It charmed you.
The campus was beautiful, and my department, we all get along. It was just like one of those things where just felt right, and that seemed the right thing to do.
Were you still married with your first
Yes.
wife?
Yep.
So you had a daughter, so you had to think of your family.
We didn't have a kid yet, but we were married and both from Indianapolis, so both of our parents were here. It made sense, again, to be even closer be closer to family. Yeah, so I took that job at Franklin.
And you had Indianapolis nearby, of course, so you had the best of all kind of worlds.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And and I thought I'd be at Franklin for a few years and get some more experience and do stuff.
Get tenured and
I didn't even think I'd stick around long enough to get tenured.
Do you have tenure now?
Technically, no.
Okay.
I received tenure, and then I became a full professor, and then a few years ago I switched to a part-time position because I do so much film work.
Sure.
So technically I'm not still tenured, but I've been there 19 years. And
so you haven't started wearing tweed and smoking a pipe, have you?
No, not yet. That's next year.
Sweaters.
Yeah. No, I still wear jeans and a T-shirt every day.
Well, no, you don't. We're going to get into your fashion soon here.
Every day to work, I wear jeans and a T-shirt.
What's the male word, the male term for a fashionista?
Peacock, maybe.
Yeah, that's no, dandyism.
Oh, yeah, dandy.
You would have been on the carpet of the Met Gala last night if you could have.
If someone would take me, I would happily go.
Okay, back to Franklin.
Yeah.
So you found it to be a great fit.
Yeah, it
that
really
was 19 years ago.
That was I started in 2006 at Franklin.
I have, since Facebook came around, we are all able to keep track by being voyeurs. We can drop in and see, I wonder what so-and-so's doing. It shows up on our news feed. So I've been following you. I know what you've been up to.
Yeah.
And conversely, I know that you seem to keep track of what I'm doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But anyway, it sounds like you just had you're positioned physically being in Franklin because your ties to Bloomington, your ties to Indianapolis. Wow.
Yeah, and then I did get the call from Janet about freelancing IRT, and I had other friends around the country at other small schools similar to Franklin, but like you just mentioned, the great thing about Franklin, while it's not technically a suburb of Indy, it is not a hard trip up to Indianapolis. So
you got the airport nearby?
The airport's nearby, and doing freelance work at the Phoenix or at IRT was easy because it was just a 20-minute thing, and I could involve my students, and they could see the process and see the show and everything. So
lucky them. I've seen your body of work locally because I see everything and have for 50 years. So remind me of some of the plays that you did. Phoenix, or IRT in Phoenix.
So my first show at IRT was the Scottish play, Shakespeare's Scottish play. I still won't say the name because it's bad luck. But hopefully listeners know. It starts with an M. I did the Scottish play. I also did Mary's Wedding was a great show that I did at IRT. I did Romeo and Juliet at IRT. Man, Love Letters. Did a lot of shows there.
Worked with all kinds of directors.
Worked with many directors and many other great artists. And
Tom Haas wasn't around when you designed. Okay.
But I know,
You knew him, of him. I was just curious.
Yeah, and then I did some shows at the Phoenix. I know I did some of their Christmas shows. I know I did other stuff too. And I designed for Civic Theater both while it was at Marion and then at the new place up at the Palladium.
So you must have known Brian Fonseca. I never fail to mention whenever possible. I want to keep his memory alive.
Yeah.
What was your experience with Brian?
I cannot think of the name. Anna Wimper or something. The first show I did at the Phoenix, it was at the church.
The church on Chatham Arch.
Yeah, Chatham Arch.
For those who don't know what we're talking about.
And it was a basement show.
And by the way, for those who don't know who Brian is, he was the founding artistic director of the Phoenix Theater.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very into new works and producing plays that, doing these world premieres of things that then went on to play around the country.
For people who didn't know what Brian contributed, he would get the rights to these off-Broadway shows, so we would see them 2 years after they were in New York.
Yeah.
It was just so... Indianapolis had no idea.
Yeah.
And now it's clear to me, looking back, that he really did make a major contribution to the cultural education of Indiana.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least central Indiana, if not. But then look at how he was lauded by the national press when he died of COVID, unfortunately.
Yeah.
The New York Times, NBC, all the big outlets, he was recognized. So that should be proof right there.
Yeah, yeah.
But
he certainly
did he
did a
take
lot.
you under his wing?
Yeah, and he was really my first main stage show, or whatever the larger stage was called at the old church, was Bloody Andrew Jackson, which is a really great musical that had been, I don't know if it was on Broadway or off Broadway, but had been in New York and played here. Yeah, he was the same as he was with plays, open to new ideas and trying things and being creative with how we got to the final product.
Gave you a lot of artistic freedom. But if you didn't like something, he'd tell you.
Absolutely, yeah.
But if you like sometimes he intimidated the heck out of me because he went directing. I acted for him and he didn't give me any feedback. And I thought, okay, I had to trust that I was doing the right thing or he wouldn't have cast me in the first place. He had a talent for casting, right?
Yep.
What was it like seeing your work for the first time on the Indiana Repertory stage? I can't imagine.
It was surreal. It was...
You grew up in this town. You went there as a little kid with your parents.
I hit the peak because that was the main theater that I knew as a kid. I hit that peak and then got hungry for more. So
that's what's supposed to happen, though.
Yeah,
right?
I think so.
And also, you were surrounded by as professional people as you can get. Not that you didn't get in your personal previous experiences, right?
Yeah,
so
it was.
You had to have worked with, because they hire designers from all over the country, people who've worked in rep theaters all over the place, right? So you got to take in all that, too.
Yeah,
right?
and really learned so much about the collaborative process. Because at Franklin, we have the director, whoever's directing the show, and then we have me, and I'm doing everything. And it's not that we don't collaborate, but the difference between two people collaborating and having a whole team of 8 people collaborating and 8 professionals specifically, it really, you learn so much. If you're willing and open, you learn so much. If you go in closed-minded, you can do whatever you want. But if you're willing to hear other people's ideas...
And so you were able to take all those experiences with the Phoenix and IRT, and what were some of the other theaters you worked with?
I worked at Civic Theater.
You said that.
And then also, it's now Constellation. It used to be Cardinal Stage.
Yes.
I should have mentioned, I was actually a founding member of Cardinal Stage when it was born, but I would still design for Cardinal down in Bloomington as well. So,
did you ever do any work with Playwrights Horizon and some of those other small
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Pegasus Pictures.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Pegasus.
Okay, let's do it.
I've been following that. I can't keep track of it. It's just like...
You and me both.
So tell us about it. For listeners, explain Pegasus and the fellow that sat in on your poker game.
Yeah. Zach, I take no credit for the founding of Pegasus. Zach had this idea that he wanted to make a movie. Zach, after he left IU, went to New York and was a successful actor, both on Broadway and in television. And so he decided he wanted to make a movie. So he reached out to Paul Schulberg, who was also at that poker table. And Paul is a phenomenal playwright. And our first movie, The Good Catholic, Paul wrote and directed it. I designed it because I sat at that poker table and I was a designer that they knew.
Those who don't know, what does a designer in film do exactly?
Yeah, so the designer, obviously you're working with the director, but really you're working more with the director of photography. Because in theater, you design a set and your audience has the choice to look wherever they want at whatever time they want. In film or television, the director of photography has dictated where your eye is going to look because the camera is facing that way. You're not dressing a whole room, you're dressing 1/3 of a room where the camera's looking. Or
a set.
Yeah, you're doing just a set.
It's a different kind of set.
Yeah. So it was a big learning curve, but as we've mentioned, I was open and creative.
Switch your paradigm, though, right?
Yeah. And there were silly things I didn't think about. Oh, this is how high I hang a picture. But then you look at it on monitor and you're just seeing the bottom of the frame. That's stupid. I'm going to lower it so that it looks more natural, even though it's not the natural height for it. So just silly things like that.
Yeah, the whole idea that I always try to explain to people about the differences. Think about plays that you may have seen and then you saw them as movies. Think about it. At these days, you can create, and now that you've got video involved, you can create these worlds on stage. But the film can open up a story and take you to those places that they may just refer to on stage. You can do a flashback. You're there.
Yeah.
And you can recreate it. It could be...
Right, you could have a voiceover and you're looking at a totally different location, and it's a different world. But so our first movie was The Good Catholic, and that was in 2016 or 2017. We had Danny Glover and John McGinley, Ren Schmidt, and then Zach also starred in it. It went on and won a bunch of awards. We didn't know what we were doing, but apparently we did okay.
Everybody wants to ask, I'm sure, my listeners, well, how was it working with Danny Glover?
Danny was great. One of the nicest guys out there. He was...
No attitude about being in a small budget film.
No attitude whatsoever.
Coming out to Bloomington and blah, blah, blah.
No, he knew the whole bit. And
That's great.
He had one scene where he was supposed to eat bacon, and his agent or manager, somebody had contacted me and said, because on a small set, I'm the designer, but I'm also doing all the cooking and all these things. For that scene, his manager said he needs turkey bacon because he's trying to be healthy. I was like, all right. So I cook up all this turkey bacon, and Danny looks at me and goes, what the hell is this? I'm like, it's turkey bacon. This won't look good on film. I need real bacon. I was like, yes, sir. So we ended up cooking pounds of real bacon, and that man ate it all.
How many takes?
It didn't matter. You call cut. He kept eating it. So
what I mean, how many takes is you needed that much bacon?
Yeah. Oh, I think we went through pounds of bacon. But we would call cut, and he really would continue eating. And I was like, we save the bacon.
Oh, God, I love that.
No, he was great, super friendly. And we've been fortunate with a lot of our named actors that they all understand the independent film world. And no one goes into a job wanting to make crap work.
Look what's happening with the Academy Awards, the Jesse Eisenberg's film.
Yeah.
And he, by the way, it's another whole topic, but he lives in Bloomington.
He's in New York now because his kids are in school, but his wife is from Bloomington.
You knew Anna Stroud, his wife?
No, I didn't know her. I have met Jesse.
I thought you would have because his wife, Toby, was very prominent in Bloomington.
So Zach,
her mother.
Zach knows her.
Okay.
I've only met Jesse, but
Okay. Of course, he won Best Screenplay.
I think that's what it was.
In any case, independent films.
Yeah.
They're hip.
Hopefully, making a splash again because no one's really sure what the
and a lot of
what
big
the market
names
is.
Want to be in though. Because they can see it as a possible.
No, they do. It's always a scheduling thing, right?
Yeah.
Because they get in these big budget films, and that's where they make money.
Sure.
But they often have a creative itch that they want to scratch, and so it's about what independent film do they latch on to that they can really showcase who they are as an actor, or sometimes they want to try their hand at producing and acting. Independent film gives you that opportunity where Marvel does not.
I have this theory that independent films are really attracted to theater actors.
And that's Pegasus. We specifically run Pegasus like a theater company because we're theater guys from the heart, so we really strive to hire people that fit that collaborative mold and understand the theater world and then translate that to film.
Angelo Pizzo was on this podcast recently. And he talked about how he cast his last independent film, filled it out with a lot of people from local theater.
Yeah.
Constellation people.
Yeah.
These are theater actors.
Yeah.
Disciplined. Talented.
It's a similar skill set, but a totally different approach, and I love it.
Before you run out of time, name the titles of the films.
So
highlight about each.
Our first film was Good Catholic with Danny Glover. Then we did Miss White Light, which starred Judith Light from many things. Who's the Boss is what I knew her from growing up. But I will say she's the nicest person on the planet. Yeah. Her husband might be slightly nicer, but they're amazing. Mm-hmm. And that was the film that I became part owner of Pegasus. So our second film is when I jumped into that. Then our third film was The Miseducation of Bindu, which we filmed at the old Broad Ripple High School with David Arquette.
That won a bunch of awards, didn't it?
Yeah, we actually won the Heartland Award, other festivals
too.
Did
they premiere it here?
Yeah.
Heartland?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, I remember that. Okay.
And then what did we do after that? Oh, after that, we went into COVID. And then during COVID, we shot The Duel, which stars Dylan Sprouse, one of the Sprouse twins. And that movie actually ended up getting bought by Lionsgate. That was the one that we just released.
And that was the one that premiered at the Hilbert Circle Theater that I missed.
Yeah, that was the one that we did. Yeah, premiered it last year. So,
Okay.
And then we have one called Runner that has done really well in the European market. It's not been released yet. It played a bunch of festivals, and we have a distribution deal. We're just still negotiating stuff for that. We did The River, which we shot down at French Lick, which was a thriller based on the New York Times bestselling novel, The River.
Did you use the big...
Yeah, we filmed all in West Baden.
in West Baden.
Yep.
For those who don't know, West Baden is what's that place called? The hotel.
Yeah, that's the hotel is the West
Yes.
Baden Springs Hotel or whatever.
One
but
of the wonders of the world.
yeah, it's got the largest, used to be the largest unsupported dome in the Western Hemisphere or something.
It's mind-boggling to me still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so we filmed. That was a thriller that we filmed, and then what? Oh, I'm out of order, but we just did We Strangers, which we filmed up in the Gary area, and that will be releasing soon as well. And then we just filmed one called The Revisionist. We filmed that down in Louisville because we could take advantage of the tax credits that Indiana's struggling with. And that has
that's
Dustin.
another whole show, right?
Yeah, that's a
wish we
whole
could have time to
separate
talk
thing.
about that. Okay,
But that has Dustin Hoffman in it.
Oh,
It's
goodness.
supposedly his last film. He's 87 and wanting to retire. So we'll see if he sticks to that or not. So is that 8? We've done 8. Hopefully I said 8.
Yeah. So I hear you're working on a film on the Little 500.
We are, currently right now we are in pre-production it's based on the true story of the first women's Little 500, which was in
And I hear
1988.
IU is partnering with you?
Yeah, IU is a partner.
They missed out on breaking away and they know it?
Yeah, and I will tell you the true story of the first Women's Little 500 is very dramatic in a good way, and obviously will highlight that drama to make it even more film-worthy. But we're sticking pretty true to like the events that happened. So
that's fantastic. And as always, you will try to find box office names, but you'll hire local people, right?
yes, we will.
Are you on the lookout for those people now?
We are not yet. We're currently interviewing directors right now. Because it's a female-based sports movie, we're looking for an all-female production team as much as we can.
That's so cool.
Female director of photography, all the department heads we are aiming to have as females.
That film's going to do quite well.
I hope so.
Come on.
When I think about it, like not just our script, but the story, the real story plus our script, I get goosebumps just thinking about it.
Do you know Angela Pizzo well?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you have so much in common in
Yeah.
terms of your sensibilities about producing work in Indiana and local people. Good art is made everywhere, and you know
Yes,
this
yes.
New York.
Nope.
And you don't have to be in New York to prove that you're good. I don't.
Not anymore.
No.
I do think maybe when I was younger, I know I believed
Sure.
that, but it's such a different world now. Everything from Zoom to we're all connected, and
Well,
you can be
yeah.
anywhere.
Now
So
you have to be based in New York, though, for certain things to get jobs other places. That's what I find, especially when I interview like people in touring companies. They need to make a living. There's only so much work.
Yeah.
So
I remember when I was in college, one of the things that they always told me, we didn't really have cell phones, but people said you always want to have a New York address with a 212 number, whether you actually live there or not, so that you can give people your 212. Now, that's totally gone now. 25 years later, totally gone. But.
So your art, I remember I went to an opening, and that's really the last time we had a really good conversation. It was somewhere down near, it was in Indy Reads, I believe, on Mass Avenue, and you had an exhibit. Help me remember.
It was called The Diminutive Man.
Yes, it was
and
like
it was little sculptures.
Sculptures.
So that
I collect miniatures, so that's why I was there. I was there because I just love little stuff.
Yeah, that show, I did it first in L.A. I had a gallery show in L.A. and Travis DiNicola, who was running Indy Reads at the time is a friend.
Sure.
But he was like, why are you doing shows in LA? Let's do it here.
Cool.
He opened up Indy Reads to me. And
Isn't he in Cincinnati now?
no, he's in Pennsylvania
Okay.
somewhere now.
But are you still creating? Are you still making stuff? Are you still
Not as much as I
sculpting?
want to.
No.
I have a teenager, so I spend a
Yeah.
lot of time driving to
So
events.
how is your health? If you don't mind, I followed you on Facebook. I went through that period when you were suffering problems with your equilibrium.
Yeah.
Right? How is that?
I still have vertigo. There's still no explanation for it. I'm at a point with it now where I know most of my triggers, so I can avoid episodes just by knowing what my triggers are. So
That was a scary time for you, I know.
very scary.
Yeah, you run and bike, and you're very athletic.
I couldn't even walk for a while.
We share mutual friends, so I know you like to travel, and I already talked about, I teased about how your fashion sense. Are you still modeling as well?
No, there's just my youngest, Josephine, is 15, and she's a cheerleader, and I just spend all my time at cheerleading events now.
Wow, does she want to act and model and all
We'll
that
see.
stuff too? Yeah.
She's been an extra in most of our films and has
Ah.
loved it, but who knows what she'll actually choose as she gets older.
Do you take her to shows? And
Oh, yeah.
enjoys?
Yeah.
And you said that Diane is a professor. Is she also at Franklin? What does she
No,
do?
she's at IU.
Oh.
She's actually at the East Campus in Richmond. Would be a Spanish professor, but she's currently the director of the honors program. So she's working with all the honors kids to make them better.
You already said that you're a team, right?
We are a team.
And so she's a sounding board. You soundboard for each other. You're a soundboard.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am probably much worse at giving her advice than she is me. She's a lot
Okay.
smarter than I am, but
I always like to leave. It's corny and it's a cliche, but no, I think people want to hear it. If whoever's listening to this show, parents with children or high schoolers who are thinking about careers, I like to target those people. So what about parents and students who may be listening about your work and the idea? I really want to promote this too. Have a well-rounded background, but give them some direction and advice. Let's first with the parents.
and I have this with parents I talk to at Franklin when they come to visit with potential students. And if your child wants to do something, it is probably best to let them try to do it, because if you shoehorn them into something else, they're not going to be passionate about it and they won't succeed, right? Oh, you got to make money. You can't be in the arts. If they want to be in the arts and that's where their passion is, you have to let them go with it and they will find a way to make money. If they get pushed into something else and it's not what they want, they're not going to be a satisfied individual.
Plus, they'll resent you for the rest of your life.
Oh, and there's that too. And I'm fortunate. I have very supportive parents. They have been supportive my whole life. It's never been an issue with them saying, yeah, go for it or not. They are loving. And I know that's a blessing. I try to be careful how I word it with people, but you have to follow your passion. It's on my shirt, on back of my jacket. Dreams aren't dumb. That's Pegasus. That's our motto. And you just, if you have a dream, go with it.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. So don't stifle your kids.
Don't stifle your kids.
What do you say to the kids?
So the kids, it's a totally different conversation, because you do want them to follow that passion, but like we said earlier, you want them to be well-rounded. So you want them to get, do the theater stuff, do the film stuff. But hey, just remember, if you don't know about the world and what's happening, you're not going to be a strong artist on this side. You have to know things in order to do things.
So again, another cliche question, but what do you want to be remembered for? What kind of legacy do you want to leave?
Wow. I don't know if I've ever even thought about that. One other thing we didn't mention, I do openly talk about it, is I'm bipolar. And I'm medicated. I see a therapist. I do lots of other coping techniques to work with it. And I want to be a positive influence on people, whether it's through mental health or whether it's through filmmaking or theater or whatever it is. I want people to see me as a positive influence that's showing growth and different ways to succeed and helping lift other people up and finding ways to work together as a community to all be better. And I just, like I said, through mental health, through work through whatever it is, I want people to see me as a positive influence.
It's the elephant in the living room, but since this is a show about the performing arts and artists and arts organizations, I can't help but comment myself on the situation we're all in right now. Political stuff, okay? Let's just call it political stuff, and you can read between the lines on that. But when you're in the theater, and I go to the theater a lot, I'm in a theater or a concert hall, and that's how I'm surviving this time of turmoil. Because when you're surrounded by art, like I am, I'm immersed in how can I be anything but positive. And I don't know the politics of the person on either side of me.
No.
So I am just convinced that we need art and artists more than ever. Do you agree?
I totally agree. We need to keep creating and let people keep enjoying, regardless of their beliefs. Let them enjoy so that we as a community, as a world, can grow together.
It's transformative powers, right?
Yes,
the
absolutely.
arts have transport, and it can make money too.
Yeah, and it can make money. And it does have a huge economic impact on on cities. And if we film a movie, you're dropping millions of dollars into the local economy. So
I bet you Bloomington loves you all.
So far they do. We'll see what happens with Little Five. That's going to be a kind of a bigger footprint. So.
Thank you so much. I know you're probably between classes or some project or some Zoom call.
Yeah,
or whatever,
who knows what today is.
But it's been a pleasure knowing you all these years.
Well, thanks for having me today.
I'll continue to watch what happens next. So
thank you very much.
Okay,
it's
Gordon.
Been great.
Thank you so much. Our thanks go out to our media sponsor, Urban Times. Urban Times is a monthly news magazine which serves as the official newsletter for 15 Indianapolis neighborhoods, offering news about development, arts and entertainment, and from the business community. Thank you for joining me on the aisle. Please subscribe to my podcast, and if you want to hear previous episodes, find them on the All Indiana Podcast Network, or listen to them wherever you get your podcasts. This is Tom Alvarez.
Who will take center stage on the podcast next? Your seat on the aisle with Tom Alvarez awaits. Follow Tom on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and make sure to visit tomalvarez.studio. Watch Tom every other Thursday on Lifestyle Live on Wish TV, and make sure to listen every week here on the All Indiana Podcast Network.